oh, I love this. We have a Democratic pundit, we have a Republican pundit, and we have a politician all agreeing that the Democratic message as articulated, let's say a la Bernie Sanders, a la those others who really decided to create not only an economic message, but also the message on democracy and everything, that it actually works. And you know what? It turns out that many of the candidates individually, even though many of us, because we didn't see it all over the country, hadn't realized it, those who followed that tenet seem to have won. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
If you care about the economy, as many Democratic voters and independent voters do, you also voted for Democratic candidates this cycle. I mean, I have watched so many of my Republican colleagues, almost to a person, vote against lowering costs for working families. We just passed the Inflation Reduction Act in August, for example, which will lower the cost of prescription drugs. Not a single Republican voted for it. We were able to run on that. They didn't vote for the American Rescue Plan, and only a dozen of them voted for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is creating millions of good-paying jobs in districts around the country. So we were able to vote, we were able to talk about how we are working to lower costs and address inflation, whereas folks like Rick Scott and others in the party, they wanted to talk about inflation without articulating a plan. And then when we got Rick Scott's plan, it turns out that he wanted to lower taxes for really wealthy people and cut Medicare and Social Security.
Well, listen, Democrats, I think, did the right thing. I know they got poo-pooed a lot for focusing on democracy, this very nebulous idea, but it was important, and it was important that they talked about it. I think that was effective. But it was also important that they talk about the economy, and it's tough for Democrats because a lot of what Joe Biden has done won't be felt by voters for years and years and years. It's not like he put a check in the mail. And that's hard to communicate, but they did a good enough job that they kept the Senate and might win the House.
But you also had Republicans, some of whom even had worked on bipartisan legislation, who refused to even run on that. And I do want to give props to the vice president because she was out there campaigning several days a week, keeping reproductive freedom at the forefront, which for many families is actually an economic issue.
I will admit, personally, because we just see the ads that we see here in Texas, I wasn't quite aware of a lot of the messaging on the very local areas that were going on. So I was very, very concerned about the message as being articulated by a lot of these politicians. The one thing that I always said is we cannot follow the polls, however, because I wasn't dependent on the population solely being dependent on the message from the politicians, but also their own intellect, right? What they see, what they feel, what they have, what they know. So if you looked at my last several newsletters, it was, do not follow the polls, just go vote. And it seems all right that, yes, folks went out and voted, but not only that, but that in fact, in several districts where we might not have won, the messaging was just right. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.